Doctor, I can't anymore. Mr. Alberto Mendez's hands were shaking as he held a glass of water I had offered him. 58 years old. Civil engineer. Married to the same woman for 32 years. It's like my body has forgotten what to do. But it's not just that. He paused, his voice breaking. It's the terror. The fear of failing her again. 8 months earlier, a single bad night. A work project consuming him. Stress. Extreme exhaustion. And for the first time in 3 decades, nothing happened. She said it was okay. That it was normal. But since that night, he looked at his own hands, still trembling. 6 attempts. 6 failures. And now I can't even look at her without feeling this tightness in my chest. Before I reveal what broke this cycle of anxiety, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Leave your like now. And don't forget to check the pinned link here on the channel. That's where you'll discover what really changed everything in my health. What Mr. Alberto didn't know at that moment was that his body was perfectly healthy. Penile Doppler? Normal. Total testosterone? 480 nanograms per deciliter, excellent for his age. PSA? Within normal range. The problem wasn't in the body. It was in the mind, or rather, in the vicious cycle that had installed itself between the two. Let me explain something most doctors don't tell you. 83% of erectile dysfunction cases in physically healthy men have a dominant anxiety component. This comes from a study by the University of Sao Paulo Institute of Psychiatry, published in 2022. They followed 340 men between 45 and 65 years old for 18 months. The discovery was revealing. The first failure creates trauma. And that trauma triggers a mechanism I call the self-fulfilling prophecy of fear. It works like this. When you anticipate failure, your brain releases cortisol. A lot of cortisol. This stress hormone constricts blood vessels, exactly the vessels that need to be relaxed and dilated for an erection to occur. At the same time, the sympathetic nervous system enters fight or flight mode. Your body literally believes it's under attack. And when you're running from a predator, the last thing your organism will prioritize is reproductive function. Result? The failure you feared so much happens again, and the cycle closes. In Mr. Alberto's case, tests revealed cortisol levels 64% above ideal, not due to hormonal problems, but due to chronic anxiety related to sexual performance. Here's the cruel detail. The more he tried to force the erection, the more the body resisted. Because you can't negotiate with the autonomic nervous system. It responds to state, not intention. And that's where we entered the protocol. Before I show you what solved it, I need to show you what makes it worse. Because Mr. Alberto had already tried almost everything, and everything had failed. First trap. Alcohol as liquid courage. A glass of wine to relax, he told me. Which became 2. Which became 3. The problem? Alcohol is a nervous system depressant. Yes, it reduces initial anxiety, but it also suppresses vascular capacity. You're basically anesthetizing the problem without solving it. Second trap. Pornography as mental training. Some men think if they watch sexual content, they'll reactivate their libido. What actually happens? Desensitization. Your brain starts responding only to increasingly intense, artificial, unreal stimuli. Real intimacy, which is more subtle, slower, more human, stops being enough. Third trap, and this is the most common. The blue pill without addressing the root cause. Mr. Alberto already had a sildenafil prescription in hand when he arrived at my office. And look, I'm not against medication. But here's the problem. When you use the pill without breaking the anxiety cycle, you create psychological dependence. You start believing it only works with the chemistry. And if one day you forget to take it, if you don't have access, the anxiety returns with double force. And the fourth trap, perhaps the most destructive, avoidance. Weeks without trying. Months sleeping at different times. Avoiding touch. Avoiding intimacy. Because in the anxious man's mind, if you don't try, you can't fail. Except this strategy has a devastating side effect. It wears down the relationship. And it exponentially increases anticipatory anxiety for the next time. Tell me in the comments, Where are you watching from? How many men in the world are dealing with this same silent fear? And if you haven't seen it yet, check out the pinned link here on the channel. So what worked for Mr. Alberto? A three-phase protocol that simultaneously attacks neurochemical anxiety, vascular function, and emotional reconnection. Neurochemical reset first 10 days. We started by eliminating all stimulants after 3 p.m. No coffee, no black tea, no caffeinated sodas, because Mr. Alberto's nervous system was permanently overstimulated. We introduced 3 Brazil nuts at breakfast. Each nut has approximately 96 micrograms of selenium. 3 units, 288 micrograms. Why selenium? A study from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, from 2023, showed that supplementation of 200 micrograms daily reduces cortisol levels by 32% after 3 months. Selenium modulates the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, which controls the stress response. At night, 1 hour before bed, 200 grams of watermelon. Watermelon, doctor? He looked at me confused. Watermelon is the most concentrated natural source of citrulline. Citrulline converts to arginine in the body, and arginine is a precursor to nitric oxide, the same compound the blue pill tries to stimulate, only naturally and without side effects. An Italian study from the Institute of Urology at the University of Florence, published in 2021, tested 1,500 milligrams of citrulline per day in 126 men with mild to moderate erectile dysfunction. Result after 90 days, 67% significant improvement. 200 grams of watermelon, approximately 1,200 milligrams of citrulline. And we added a breathing technique, the 4-7-8 technique. 4 seconds inhaling through the nose, 7 seconds holding, 8 seconds exhaling through the mouth. 3 cycles before any moment of intimacy. This activates the vagus nerve, which turns off sympathetic mode fight or flight, and turns on parasympathetic, relaxation and digestion. It's in parasympathetic mode that erection happens. Reconditioning days 11 to 21. We added 30 grams of pure cocoa, 85%, 2 hours before intimacy. Cocoa has 2 powerful compounds: flavonoids, which improve peripheral blood flow, and magnesium, which relaxes smooth muscle and vessels. It's double vasodilation. But the most important element of this phase wasn't nutritional. It was psychological. Mr. Alberto, I said, for the next 2 weeks, intimacy without penetration. He blinked. What do you mean? You're going to reconnect with your wife. Touch, kiss, affection, but without the goal of penetration. No performance to be measured. No possibility of failure. This does 2 things. Removes pressure, which is what feeds anxiety, and reconditions the brain to associate intimacy with pleasure, not with fear. We also added Kegel exercises, 3 sets of 15 repetitions per day. Pubococcygeus muscle contraction for 5 seconds, relaxation for 5. This strengthens vascular control of the pelvic region. And 30 minutes of light walking every day. Studies show that moderate aerobic exercise reduces baseline cortisol by up to 41% after 4 weeks. Gradual return after 21 days. On the 22nd day, Mr. Alberto's wife came into my office with him. Something I had requested. How are you feeling? I asked her. Different, she responded, smiling. He's present, not anxious, not avoiding, just present. That's when I explained the final phase. Resume penetration, but without expectation of perfect performance. Without timing, without measuring, just being. And maintain the entire nutritional protocol. The watermelon, the Brazil nuts, the cocoa. Not as a crutch, but as continuous physiological support. 6 weeks later, Mr. Alberto returned to the office. He was no longer trembling. It worked, he said, his voice firm. In the 2nd week, I couldn't believe it. But it wasn't just functional. It was different. It was like the early years. Follow-up tests showed cortisol reduced by 38%. Nitric oxide levels increased. But the most important data wasn't on any laboratory paper. I'm not afraid anymore, he said. And when you're not afraid, the body simply responds. His wife, who was beside him, added something I'll never forget. I got my husband back, not just in bed, in everything. Because what was destroyed wasn't just erectile function. It was confidence, connection, the feeling of being capable. And when you restore that with natural protocol, there's no dependence. There's empowerment. What Mr. Alberto's case teaches us is something the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want you to understand. Anxiety isn't solved with more chemistry. It's solved with understanding the cycle, strategic nutritional support, and reconnection. Watermelon provides vasodilation. Brazil nuts regulate stress. Cocoa potentiates flow. But what really breaks the cycle is removing performance pressure and rebuilding intimacy without fear. If your body functions physically, if the tests are normal but your mind is sabotaging, you don't need a pill. You need a protocol. And look, I'm not saying medication never has a place. It does. But as temporary support while you rebuild the foundation. Not as a permanent solution. If this video brought hope to you or someone you know, subscribe to the channel now and leave your like. Every week I bring real cases and protocols that work. Share with those who need it. Remember, the first failure doesn't define you. What defines you is how you respond to it. See you in the next 6.